This was the absolute most terrifying experience of my life. Life, what a word. So simple, so fragile. One chance to make the world and people around me a paradise full of joy and love, or screw up and be forced into a mind-shattering death wheel of excruciating pain and agony. Recalling this experience is difficult enough without having to type it. This will be quite detailed, but is worth it. Not every detail can be accurately recounted, as this was more than 2 years ago, but it will be very close. A date that will forever be burned into my memory. I and the boys ended up at a bash on this particular night. Not much of a bash, though, about 30 bodies. All the normal bash stuff on the go and whatnot. So a few of my buddies go out to purchase some fine Mary Jane when I discover I have forgotten my wallet. Big problem there. No money, no weed, no beers, no trip. Until someone suggests that I go to a local drugstore and get some free caffeine pills. Take a couple packs. They would be a good trip, he says. I had taken a few before and liked the benefits from them, so I decided a few more couldn't hurt. Me thinking it was just caffeine after all, and maybe it would give me a fun trip. Welcome to hell, is what he should have said. The pills were easily gotten, and soon I returned to the party to pop them. The time was 10 p.m. 24 pills. That's 4,800 milligrams. I have read online that 4,500 milligrams has been described as the lethal dose. Over the course of 5 minutes, all 24 were within me, just waiting to release their hell upon me. At 11 p.m, I and a few boys leave the party, and by this time I was on a decent trip, if I could call it that. I felt as if I could run forever, so I did. I ran for a good 20 minutes, just because I had that much energy. It was incredible how hyper I was. My speech was sped up significantly, as well as basically everything else I did. It was as if my mind worked 5x faster than it normally would. Stuff just didn't seem right. I came back to find my friends, and they were just about to go into Subway. This is where the gates of hell slowly creak open. We go in, and I sit down as my friends buy some food. One of them comes to sit next to me and asks why I was making my right knee jerk up and down. I told him I wasn't purposely doing that. I forced this movement to stop for a short while, but when it started again, I decided we should leave. We meet with more people at this point who had been kicked out of the party and walked to abandoned train tracks to jump over a cliff into trees for fun. It is fun, also very stupid, but fun nonetheless. Stuff is starting to get fucked up now. Everything is going so fast that it was overwhelming. I put my right hand into my right pocket and it started to shake slowly at first, but then violently. I had very little control and could not make it stop. Right then I knew I was fucked up bad, so I just left and went home. Think that's the only time I ever ran all the way home from there. Home is where comfort is supposed to be. There was none to be found here. My relatives were over when I arrived around 12 a.m. I had to force myself considerably to make it look as if there was nothing wrong with me. I spoke to my uncle for about 3 minutes and got by that fairly well, or so it seemed to me anyway. By the time 12:40 a.m. came, the gates of hell were wide open. Relatives were long gone and everyone else was asleep. Not me, though. I wouldn't sleep for a long time. My temperature was through the roof. My heart was pounding insanely non-stop. I honestly thought I would have a heart attack. Barfing had begun. I drank water, I ate a little, and it all came back up. I wanted to go outside and run. This didn't help. It was colder outside, but that didn't really help either. I would run back and forth between my computer room and my bedroom so many times I can't remember. I was frantic, trying very hard to calm myself, but at this point, this seemed like an impossibility. This was bad, very, very bad. How I felt was wrong, but not the sort of wrongness or disassociation from your normal mind like, say, a DXM or LSD trip will induce. I mean wrong, like wrong. I felt very sick, and just not right, like my body was shouting, "You're a fucking idiot, this is not right, you are going to die." It was like this, and much worse, for a horrifyingly long while. I talked to a couple of my friends who are now home. They said to call poison control right away. I said no, not getting in trouble for this, I'll just sit it through the night. Then the dry heaves began. Dry heaves are not fun. Anyone who has experienced true dry heaves can tell you this with a sharp look in their eyes. Bad was all around. Black spots of fuzziness clouded my vision at certain times. Just wrong everywhere. Eventually, because of my friends, someone called to see just how fucked up I was. They kept calling, and I think the third time they called my parents had the phone off the hook. "I took a lot of pills tonight," I said, and I heard a phone click down and stamping coming down the stairs. They bitched, they yelled, they looked on in disgust, a little sympathy, not much, and tears. They got ready to take me to the hospital. Even though this sucked so much it wasn't even fit, what my friends really did was save my life. I was fucked by this point. I mean really fucked. Beyond fucked. So fucked it terrified me. It is now around 1:30 a.m. I honestly thought I was going to die. I was just too fucked up. Here's the sickest part of this tale. My parents actually took their sweet time getting dressed and driving me to the hospital. The entire time I was dry heaving with my head in a shopping bag, fucked up beyond anything. And here was my dad driving maybe 40 kilometers an hour down a road where the speed limit is 80. Just for the hell of it. To make me learn my lesson, I guessed. Fucking bastard. I get to the emergency room. More waiting. About 20 minutes go by. I talk to a nurse. I told her my dose and what I took and stuff like that, and she said to wait. I could have nearly cried. I was just too fucked up now. Far too fucked to even want to be alive, but I kept going until this nightmare was to end in any way. 2:30 a.m. I get put in a room. I have to stand up and give a piss test in a bathroom, then back to this room. They found some weed, so a week later I got bitched at for that. Woo flippin' who. I'm given a bedpan to barf in. This bedpan was changed at least 25 times over the course of me being in this hospital. I lay down on a table bed thing in this room, barfing in agony. This trip is in no way fun at all. Not one stain of this experience was enjoyable. It was all hell. I remember looking at the sad expression on my mother's face as she watched me barf into the pan and make a lot of jerking motions with my whole body until I'm seen by a doctor. That was probably in the top 3 worst 20 minutes I ever had. I was told it was too late for a stomach pump, so they had to act fast. He quickly got me a wheelchair and IV. He then escorted me to the real ER where a few other sick people are, and I somehow get out of my clothes, into the sheet covering thing, and onto a bed. I am immediately taken a blood sample. Then people start injecting lots of drugs into my IV tube. A heart rate monitor with 3 suction electrode things are attached to specific points on my chest. That's a frightening sound. It was just going too fast and didn't seem normal, because it wasn't. It scared me. And then I just lay there, barfing, listening, going in and out between periods of blackened sight, warmer than I've ever been, and in great pain. My gut hurt a lot. What might have been 2 hours of pure hell. Nothing else can describe what I felt in these hours except this. And then I passed out. I was in the hospital for 3 nights, including the first one. I slid in and out of consciousness the first night, in terrible agony, barfing all over myself, uncontrollable movements, glimpses of a few people, vague words, and then blackness. Not sleep black, just blackness. It was as if I was still awake and dreaming at the same time. Time seemed to pass normally, but it was just all black. Black everywhere. I was so scared. I'm not one to be scared of things, but I will admit I was terrified. The next 2 nights and days had me recovering. More drugs, more people, more terrible, terrible memories. I was seen by a psychiatrist. She told me I had to be suicidal to do what I had done. So I complained but was basically near ignored. I had to see her again every 3 weeks for 3 months. I was told over these 2 days just how close I'd come to death. So close. So very close. Gives me the shivers. I was also told how extremely lucky I was that I got into the hospital and not stayed home all night. There was such a high chance I would have been found the next day as a corpse, it made me just freeze when I heard it. Approximately 90% possibility of death had been predicted. I nearly died there on the spot. I lost all trust and respect from my parents, from most of my relatives, and from other people too. And to this day, I still have this story brought up when I'm discussed by people. I still carry the mental scars of this experience, but I survived. I was restricted from low amounts of caffeine for 4 months, just for safety. I experienced several extremely painful chest pains after this, which never occurred before this incident. But I am alive. Since this experience, I have come very close to completely recovering, but not all the way. I have grown and matured much. I live. I refer to it as the Remembrance Day weekend for remembering hell. For the last 2 November 9ths I have celebrated my life, and that it is still on the go and will continue to do so. Life is no joke. When it's gone, it's gone.